Welcome back to another empowering session on Elevate and Empower the Vibrant Living Women's Summit. And I am ready to introduce to come to the stage Jennifer DeVita. She is an influencer in positive aging. She works for AARP and is a TV talk show host. She's a writer. She's got an amazing book she'll share with you, and she is a sought after speaker, as you will see. She was named one of the 50 most influential women in West Michigan, and she uses her voice to share the upside of going down over the hill. Her expertise plus her midlife events and her extensive shoe collection inspired her to write the book, Not Your Shoe Size, to encourage women to embrace their age at every stage of their life. So join me in welcoming Jennifer to the stage.
Hi, I'm so glad you could join me today. I've walked a lot of highs and lows in my life. I had a perfect plan outlined for my life, and my perfect plan has gone perfectly straight off the rails. Well, I'm going to share with you some of the highs and flats because I love shoes that I've walked in life. It goes without saying, I love shoes. I don't garden, I don't scrapbook, I don't quilt, I shoe. Shopping is my hobby. And if you don't speak Shoepanese, shopping is shoe shopping. I'm an expert shooper. I'm also an expert in aging. So, what is shoes and aging? What do those have to do with each other? Well, I have a theory about life that I want to share with you today. While Einstein had his theory of relativity, I have my own theory, and I'm going to put my best foot forward today to share this complex theory. And it's deep and it's scholarly and it's kind of heavy. So here it is. Shoes tell the story of life. I call it the theory of walkability. Shoes really do tell a lot about the stages of life that we walk and the stages of life that we're in. And to support my theory of walkability and how shoes tell the story of life, let me indulge you in a little, well, shoe and tell. Now, I didn't start out being an expert shooper or an expert in aging. I actually started my career in broadcasting. I got my degree in broadcasting and journalism because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to be a news reporter. I wanted to be the next Diane Sawyer. She was the original babe of broadcasting at the time, and I thought I want to fill her big shoes. And in my mind, they looked like this. You could almost hear the power in the click of the heel. Well, every good story isn't a good story unless there's a plot twist. Well, plot twist one, I tripped myself up. And instead of wearing these shoes and or these pumps, I started wearing these pumps. Right out of college, I became a mom and a wife. And I put my career dreams on hold. But you know what? I embraced the June Cleaver life. I loved being a stay at home mom and a wife. And I traded in those power stilettos for power slippers. And I rocked them as a domestic manager for 11 years. And I really did love my vocation. I was happy to have put my career plans aside, and I didn't know if I'd ever get back to them. Well, after my third and final baby came, my marriage started going downhill faster than an Olympic skier. And I thought I better dust off my power stilettos and my broadcasting skills because I didn't know what the future held. And this in my head is what my experience looked like. I really didn't have any experience. Well, I interviewed for a TV reporter position, and this would be my big break getting back into TV. I'd get my foot back in the door and I would finally see myself as Diane Sawyer. I would see my name in lights. Well, plot twist two, this is as far as I got to seeing my name in lights. Because in that interview, the TV news director told me that I was too seasoned to be on TV. I was 31 years old. Can you believe it? I wish the story was fiction. It's not. And I didn't look old. I didn't feel old, but that's not how he saw me. And sometimes we don't trip up our own plans, others do it for us. And while I saw myself as Diane Sawyer, the news director saw me as this. I was defeated. I was kicked to the curb, and my career had washed up before it even started. Well, at this point, I was too old for TV, and my marriage completely fell apart. I couldn't remain in that toxic marriage. And you know that song, These Boots Are Made for Walking. That's just what they'll do. And one of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Well, I gave him the boot, of course, and I did it in style. But it's not what I wanted for my life. I wanted to be married. I wanted to be that stay at home mom. At this point, I was now a desperate housewife. I was facing single parenting and I had a paper thin resume. I had no experience except wearing pumps and buying pumps. I had an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow dusty resume that I wrote for the first time that day. Yeah, that was me. Well, I applied for a job that I had no experience in, kind of like becoming a mom in the first place. I applied for a job working in marketing at a geriatric healthcare organization. Now, mind you, I had never done marketing. I barely knew what the word geriatrics meant, but I was desperate. Apparently, they were even more desperate because they hired me. I figured it was because my age itself would fit right in with the geriatric population. Well, I traded in my power stilettos for geriatric marshmallow puff shoes. And oh my gosh, did it fit or what? Not only did this fit physically, geriatric marshmallow puff shoes were so comfortable, but it also fit me as a person as well. And I've often said that stepping into the field of gerontology, it wasn't something that I necessarily sought out, but the field of gerontology found me. But guess what I heard? I heard that I was too young to work in gerontology. By this time, I was 34 years old. Well, I was too old to work in TV. I was too young to work in gerontology. So I guess that left me about one good working year until retirement. Well, I held tightly to that job that I had in geriatrics. Not only did I love it, but I knew I had job security. I figured the older I got, the more seasoned I'd become. And well, I'd have more experience and I would be able to become more qualified just based on the fact that I got older. So along the way, not only did I get more experienced and more seasoned, but I also got a little older. And I turned 40 at this point, and my family threw me an epic surprise party. They threw me a surprise 40th birthday party. It was over the hill everything. Over the hill banners and signs and decorations and party hats. And I thought, is this as good as it gets when you turn 40? I was at the peak of life at this point. And society looks at aging as this traditional bell curve where this is what it looks like to age. Middlehood is like the peak of life. And here I was standing at the peak of life and I was thinking, is this as good as it gets? Because I had kind of hit some tragedies and some roadblocks in life that I wasn't anticipating. And here I was standing at the peak of life thinking, this is as good as it gets, and life only goes downhill from here. Well, if you put a couple of eyes on it, it looks rather sad. Well, working in the field of gerontology, one of the things that I've learned is this traditional bell curve of aging is just not accurate. It's just not true. In fact, the research shows that that bell curve is actually inverted and it's called the U curve of happiness. And what researchers have found is that we actually reach kind of the bottom pits of life in our middle adult years, like the 40s and the 50s. And that as we get older, we actually get happier. And our happiness levels when we reach 60 surpass what they were when we were in our 20s. And life continues to get happier. This was good news to me. And if you put a couple of eyes on it, well, what do you see? You see a happy face. So, why do we get happier as we get older? Well, it's all about our mindset. Our goals change, our priorities become clearer, and we just care less about what other people think. We really become more comfortable in our own skin. We ignore trivial matters. We forget about those dust bunnies under the couch because nobody sees them anyway. We appreciate things more, the big things in life, but the little things too, like that first lick of mint chocolate chip ice cream. We also savor things more, like having the ice cream before having dinner. We also let go of grudges. Like for me, finally forgiving my sister when she popped Barbie's head off back when I was 10 years old. I finally forgiven her for that, and that makes me happier. So, yes, we're able to forgive people more. We let go of grudges. We also just understand what happiness means. Happy hour isn't just cocktails with friends, happy hour is a good midday nap. Well, I traded in this cheap party hat for my crown. I turned 50 and I feel like a queenager. I got to trade in that cheap party hat for a tiara. Well, Queen Elizabeth, when she was 21 years old, wearing her tiara and her sensible shoes, of course, she gave this message. She was 21 years old. She said, I declare before you that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service. Her commitment was with her whole life, not her whole age. We put so much emphasis on age in life rather than our abilities, and Queen Elizabeth proved that she still reigned with her tiara and her sensible shoes until she was 96 years old. Now, there are a lot of super agers like Queen Elizabeth. These may be public figures or people like you and I that are just everyday, ordinary people, but doing extraordinary things. So, I want to share with you some of the stories of really extraordinary older adults and things that they're doing in life. A couple of them are public figures like Clint Eastwood, the Hollywood icon. He's 93 years old, still acting and currently directing another movie. Colonel Sanders, he established the Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant chain at the age of 65. 9 years later, at 74, he had grown it to 600 franchises and he sold his share for millions. Do you still have your $1 million idea? How about that business venture that you want to pursue? Laura Ingalls Wilder began writing Little House on the Prairie at the age of 65. Grandma Moses, the renowned American folk artist, didn't begin painting until 78. Yuichiro Mira, he's the oldest person to reach the top of Mount Everest, and he did it at the age of 80. Rosemary Smith is the oldest person to drive a Formula One race car. She did it when she was 79. Harriet Thompson, a cancer survivor, ran her first marathon at the age of 76. And at 91 years old, completed her 15th marathon, becoming the second oldest marathon runner in U.S. history. Moore Keat became the world's oldest bungee jumper at the age of 96. And he didn't even begin bungee jumping until the age of 88. Now, I can assure you, you won't catch me bungee jumping, but I'm still putting my bucket list together of things that I want to do in life. And this is the time for you to be putting your ideas together because depending on what your age is, you might have more years behind you than ahead of you. So it's important to be thinking about what you want to do in life because, as these super agers prove, the things that you can accomplish have nothing to do with your age, but they have everything to do with your mindset and your passion to pursue things and explore things in life and to be a lifelong learner and to really push yourself to try new things. Now, all of these super agers had one thing in common. They had their superpower letter that they put before their age. It's a letter of the alphabet. Now, what do you think that letter of the alphabet might be? I'll give you a second to think about it. The letter is S. So if you put S before your age, what do you get? You get sage, and that's what you are. When you're seasoned, you're better. And even a turkey knows that seasoning makes everything better. But becoming sage means to become wiser, to become more knowledgeable, to become more experienced. And sage really is the power that we have in life. And there's that turkey. Turkeys know that seasoning makes everything better. One thing that I've told my kids is that the road of life is always under construction. We're constantly going through twists and turns and unexpected plot twists in our story. We write our stories thinking that that's how they're going to go, and life just never goes according to plan. We're always rebuilding our lives and hopefully enjoying those phases of enjoying the new construction of the phases of life that we've had to rebuild. Well, life is constantly transition. We're constantly moving through change and transitions in our lives and rebuilding. Well, one of the things that I've also accomplished is finding new love. I have found love all over again, and I fell head over heels. And the man I have now, well, he's not getting the boot. Rather, he buys me boots. He holds my heart in the palm of his hands. And while I know that a way to a man's heart is through his stomach, he knows that a way to my heart is through my feet. While the other shoe might fall off in life, one thing is certain is that we don't need a man to put our shoe on for us, that magic glass slipper, because we can do it ourselves. And that's one of the things that I've learned is that all of the changes and the transitions in life that I've gone through have built a spine of steel for me, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Another area that I've had to rebuild is working in TV. Now, I was 31 when I was kicked to the curb, but guess what? Life sometimes is upside down. And here I am now 50, and guess what? I'm doing more TV than ever. 9 years ago, I started doing TV commercials on all things positive aging, and I provided advice and daily tips on how to age well and finding the upside of going down over the hill and finding the silver lining after becoming silver. I also launched a TV show that I co host, and I interview those super agers. I interview people who are over the age of 50 and 60, 70, and 80 who are living very vibrant lives. They live a life of vitality. And in addition to that, I do a lot of other TV work, and I'm proud that I'm 50 years old, almost 2 decades older, and I'm doing the things that I set out to do. While my plans might have gotten pushed to the wayside along the way, I've worked to reinvent myself, and we have to do that time and time again. One of the things too that I've learned in this aging field is just that there's no guidebook. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's interesting because when I first started working in this field, I was working with people who were as young as 50 years old who had comorbidities or early onset Alzheimer's. And that was my first lens of working in this field. And then I started working with people who are in their 70s who are starting businesses as encore entrepreneurs. Well, the spectrum of aging is vast and different. And if, you hear that expression 60 is the new 40, well, I say 60 is the new 60 because I have yet to meet a 40-year-old who says 6-year-olds are like them. Because 60 really is the new 60, 70 is the new 70. You get to define your age however you want to. In this process of working in the field of gerontology, I've also been able to dust off one of my other dreams that I had for myself was which was to write a book. I wanted to tell stories, and I published my debut novel, Not Your Shoe Size. Subtitle: A Novel About Acting Your Age or Not. The story of Not Your Shoe Size tells the story of two characters, Julia and Colette. Now, they have very opposing views on how to age well in an ageist society. Julia embraces her gray hair, her wrinkles, her geriatric marshmallow puff shoes. And Colette, well, she's chasing the elusive fountain of youth wearing stilettos. The two women have this battle and they kind of battle it out through the whole book as far as what is the right way to age. And at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong way. It's how you want to do it. It's a matter of how you want to feel comfortable in your own skin. But this battle that Julia and Colette experience is the same tug of war that we experience as women. We want to embrace our own age and our gray hair and our wrinkles and all of the signs of aging because we should feel proud of that. But yet, our youth obsessed society and the anti aging industry pushes back against that. And we don't feel like we're okay to have gray hair or wrinkles. And yet, there's no right or wrong way to it. And so I really wanted to capture this idea of this tug of war, especially because women are hit much harder with it than men are. When men get gray hair and wrinkles, well, they look distinguished. Their gray hair represents that they're a silver fox. When women get gray hair and wrinkles, we're told that we look a little tired or worn out or not aging well. Well, no kidding, we're tired and worn out because we're fighting this anti aging battle unnecessarily. So, the novel Not Your Shoe Size captures this. In addition to that, it's heartwarming and it's thought provoking. There are a lot of books that are nonfiction books that are like the idiot's guide to this and the dummy's guide to that, all things aging. But there really aren't any good fiction stories that tell the heart and soul of the aging process. And so while you're being entertained, you're also being educated a little bit. I call it edutainment. It's been likened to the book What to Expect When You're Expecting, except in this case, of course, what to expect when you're expecting to grow older, not to grow a baby. And it really does tie in the stories of aging, but also lots of nuggets of truth and lots of insight and scientific research and statistics about the aging process, but it does it in a storytelling way. Each chapter is a decade of the women's lives, and they're progressively getting older each chapter. The two women's viewpoints go back and forth with this multi-viewpoint summary through a series of vignettes. And it starts when they're 10 years old, and they're trying to figure out how do they reach the age of 100 well. And they start out watching their parents and their grandparents aging, and it molds them, informs them, and just like it does for us, where we're learning. There's no guidebook. There's no roadmap that teaches us. We're just watching other people do it. Then the women become middle agers themselves, and they go from puberty through hot flashes to menopause. And then by the end of the book, they reach the age of 100 and they themselves become the matriarchs of society. They become the old women and they're trying to figure out still, how do they age well? Because as long as you're still here, there's still purpose to your life. There's still meaning. There's still something to accomplish. The upside of going down over the hill is that you have the ability and the dreams to still pursue in your life. No matter what your age, you can do whatever it is that you want to accomplish in life. Now, I'm going to tie up my story like a pair of shoe strings. Getting kicked to the curb for being too seasoned was a soul crushing experience. Do you know what I wanted to tell that news director when he told me that I was too seasoned? I wanted to tell him, put a sock in it. I know, it sounds corny. I faced defeat in not becoming the next Diane Sawyer, but her shoes were too big to fill anyway. I decided not to get even with the news director because that would be callous. So I had to reinvent myself, and I found my calling in gerontology, which is the study of being too seasoned. And I'm putting my foot down on ageism. I still wanted to break into TV, so I put on sneakers. Ironically, I did get my big break and got my foot back in the door. I'm 2 decades older generating new TV footage as an aging influencer. For 15 years, I've loved working in the field of gerontology despite initially having cold feet. I didn't think I'd enjoy swapping out my TV reporter power heels for orthopedic shoes, but I stand corrected. It was not an all or nothing proposition. Today, I get to enjoy both because I'm not a loafer and my ego is healed. I've learned a lot from great philosophers like Socrates and Plato, and most importantly, older adults who are perfectly and wonderfully seasoned because seasoning adds flavor to everything. And sage is the spice of life. My love life has also been elevated to a new platform. My soulmate swept me off my feet and I fell head over heels. I pursued my lifelong dream of writing a novel because I didn't want to read one more dry nonfiction book with footnotes. My life journey has been an amazing feat of ups and downs, and not just the height of my shoes. To be here today talking about the arches of life has been a lift to my spirits. I hope I've knocked your socks off today. The laughs and the inspiration and the heartwarming stories continue in my debut novel, Not Your Shoe Size. And that's the upside of going down over the hill.
I love Jennifer's stories. How many of them can you relate to? And I love shoes too. So this was an amazing talk and sharing her heart, just her heart to ours. So if you would like her free gift as well, click the link below. You can not only get her gift, but all of the speakers and presenters' gifts as well by scheduling a phone call with me, and you will get all of. So click the link below and pick your date and time. And I will look forward to seeing you there and back in the next session. And I will look forward to seeing you there.